We have an exciting second day here of the final, the thrilling final between Wesley and Magnus Carlsen. So this is great, wonderful stuff. So let's see what happened in this game. I've already spilled the beans. The first move is 1e4. Whoops. Happy birthday to Magnus Carlsen, who turns 30 years today. It stands 2-2 now, and this is their first game out of 4. Let's see how it went down. So e4, c6 from Magnus. The Caracan defense, a huge surprise, I must admit. A huge surprise, but apparently wasn't very content with the positions after e5 or c5 for that matter, so he decided to surprise good old So here with c6. So let's take a look at what happened. d4, d5, the main line. And Wesley now decides to go for e5. The main move here is knight c3. Well, e5 is critical, and also e takes d5 has become very popular. I like every move. I think everything is better for white, but that's another story. Wesley plays e5, and Magnus responds to the main move, bishop f5 here. I think that move is slightly better than the short variation with c5, which is of course possible, but I think that bishop f5 is a better try. Bishop f5, knight d2, an interesting try. There are many lines here, in particular h4 is a critical move, where black usually responds with h5, and we get a kind of very complicated positions where white tries to get control of the dark squares and black tries to get control of the light squares. So very interesting line here with h4. Bishop d3 is certainly another move here. What? Not bishop d3, sorry. Knight f3 and simply bishop e2 is kind of a common approach. But Wesley goes for knight d2, which is another line. And so these positions become very complicated. They become quite closed. So e6, knight b3, it looks very strange, but the point is that he wants to prevent c5. And also the knight in general stands quite good on b3. Knight e7, knight f3. And you're like, hey Sebastian, you said that he was going to prevent c5 and now he can already play c5. Why doesn't he do it? Well, that's certainly not a possible move. But now the extra option is that I can jump to d4 with the knight, even with this knight. Also there's bishop e5 stuff in the air as well. So h6. That's quite common. You want to give the bishop the h7 square, while g5 is sometimes an option. Bishop e2 is simply developing the bishop, and here Magnus goes for the move a5. He simply wants to play a4 and kick away this knight on b3, so Wesley is forced to play a4. He cannot allow that. Bishop b4 check. Magnus forces Wesley to play c3. I'm not sure why he wants to do that. He just goes back and he says that c3 is not such a good move here. But I must admit, I like c3. I'm happy that I've gotten that for free. So maybe it would have been better to simply go for knight e7 or something. Then perhaps g5, knight g6 later, and bishop e7. I do not think that black should give white c3 for free, but that's just me. So let's see. Bishop e4, c3, bishop f8. Simple development with castles is always good. Knight e7. There we go. h3. I think that's a good move as well. Common move if you want to play knight h2, perhaps even f4, g4, f5, start attacking. It's not so easy for black. But as I have mentioned, these positions are quite strange. They're very hard to understand. Even I am struggling quite a lot with both colors. But let's see what happened here. So bishop h7, bishop d2. Logical move. You could go to e3 as well, I guess, but you do not really want to give knight f5 with a tempo. And if you play bishop f4, even g5 can be played with a tempo in some cases as well. It could be maybe a little bit too premature due to the fact that black is poorly developed, but you rather want to put a bishop on a place where it cannot be attacked. So bishop d2 is a logical move. Queen b6, another pretty logical move here. It's not so easy for me to move my knight. Pawn on b2 will be hanging, and now my queen is also forced to protect the knight as well, which is sometimes slightly annoying for white. So the American goes for knight e1 here. He wants to play knight d3, knight c5, or even bishop d3 to trade off these bishops. The bishop on h7 is actually quite strong here. Has a massive diagonal, so bishop d3 is a logical square to put the bishop. Magnus goes for knight f5. It's time for him to get the bishop developed. Bishop d3. The bishop is nicely placed in the diagonal. Bishop e7. Queen c2. Look at this diagonal. It's looking pretty good. And g4 is actually a threat, so Magnus has to prevent that. He plays bishop g6. And c4 by Wesley. And this is... I'd say that it's a blunder. I'd say that he overlooks something drastic here. And this is a poor move. He should have been just waiting a little bit more. Perhaps something like... It's not even easy to find a move here. Something like bishop f4 it could be possible now, because the knight has gone to f5 and there is no g5 yet. So bishop f4 is a move that you can make. Maybe even rook c1. The thing is that black is going to play c5 and it's not that easy, and these pieces are all looking a little bit strange here. So maybe bishop f4. Something like that, and then try to improve your pieces. And it's a very interesting position. I will play g4 at some point. Black needs to be prepared. I'd say it's a very double-edged and it could go in any direction here. Very, very complicated stuff. I'd evaluate the position as unclear. But Wesley goes for c4, and that is a blunder. After d takes c4, queen takes c4, and the beautiful move knight takes d4. This is very brilliant, because if I take back with my knight now, Magnus can play knight takes e5, and we're attacking the bishop and queen simultaneously. So it's not possible to take the knight with the knight. If I take with the queen, I'll take... never mind. If I take with the queen, I can simply take on b3. For some insane reason, I thought that the bishop here was not guarded. Of course, it's guarded by the knight on e1. It's been a long day, don't judge me. Alright, so here, knight takes d4. And, well, then I might show why this doesn't work, because I just thought that the bishop was hanging. But as a matter of fact, if I play queen c3, I have bishop b4. If I play queen c2, I have queen takes d4. Just in case you were wondering. Alright. So, I have to take with the queen. This happened in the game as well. Queen takes b3, bishop takes g6, f takes g6, and we've gotten an entirely different position here where Magnus's king is slightly weaker, you could say, but he has won a pawn, and the pawn on d4 is a nice pawn to win as well. White is stuck with this bishop here, which is sort of poor. It's not very good. However, it is not too shabby either. It has a future on c3. But I definitely prefer black here. So queen e4. Magnus simply ignores the threat of queen takes g6. I think that is very, very clever. If I now take on g6, knight takes e5 comes. That would be very bad. But Wesley goes for bishop takes h6. His point is that if this one is taken, you can take on g6, and this could even be winning. I think it's winning for white. After takes, and something like rook c1, rook c3, rook g3. It's gonna be mate at some point, or at least loss of material. So that wouldn't be possible. Magnus, he doesn't take back. He plays rook f5, which is an excellent move. Wesley goes for bishop e3. You do not want to play bishop f4 here because of knight c5, and I think this is already lost because I have rook d8 at the end. And this bishop is going to fall. Queen e3, and then something like g5. This position is hopeless. Bishop g3, simply take. Yeah, this is very bad. Look at all of these weak pawns and black's active pieces. Huge advantage for black. Like -6. Quite crazy. So you do not want to do that. You want to prevent knight c5. So bishop e3 is the move that makes sense here. Magnus plays a queen d5, and that is slightly strange. You cannot take on b2 because of knight d3, but you may wonder why can't he take on e5? Doesn't this look illogical? Well, yeah, but I can take on g6. And if I take with the knight, I can then play g4, and this knight will be unprotected on e5, and the white will have a winning position. So Magnus played queen d5. I think this is a good move. Queen takes d5, e takes d5, f4, and the very important move, the only move that leads to an advantage for black, is the move g5. And the point is, we are destroying this pawn center here. So if I play something like takes, the pawn here is hanging, and these pawns will be far, far too strong in the endgame. So I cannot take, and if I play g3 to try to keep the center, takes, I can even play g5 here. Looks possible to me, but at least something like knight f8, knight e6 looks good, and then rook f8 to put more pressure on f4 would also be quite good. But e6 is the move that's played. Knight c5 attacking on e6, g4. Wesley goes all in, and here's another brilliancy by Magnus. He is so good in these positions. It's wild. And of course he finds the best move here, and that is to sacrifice the exchange with g takes f4. Very, very well played. G takes f5, f takes e3, rook f4. Trying to get some activity here and also protecting a4 while preventing d4. Bishop f6. Slightly inaccurate. Not the best move, but certainly not a bad one either. A better move would have been to play rook f8. I'm threatening knight takes e6 right now, and that's very difficult to prevent. Something like this makes sense, but then I will just play e2 and knight d3, and does look quite hopeless if you ask me. But bishop f6 is still good. Knight c2, e2, rook f2, and here once again Magnus is alert. He plays d4, and his point is that if I take on e2, I will then play d3, and if I do not do that, well, then these pawns would just be running down the board. So Wesley takes it. He's more or less forced to do that. d3, rook d2, d takes c2, rook takes c2, rook d8, and this is very good for Magnus. He has now gotten himself a winning position after playing absolutely brilliantly in the endgame there. Very, very well played. Very impressive. Rook e1, knight takes a4. It's all falling apart for the American after knight takes b2. Rook takes a5, knight d3, and these pawns, they can't really do anything. So they're greatly blocked by this bishop, and these pawns will eventually roll down the board. Let's see what happened. King h2, knight b4, knight d5. I'm going to play knight e3 at some point and take this pawn on f5. Rook a7 and simply rook b8. And now I'm also going to play b5, b4, b3, b2. It's very difficult to stop. King g3, knight e7. Good move because I now protect c6, and I'm free to play b5 while I'm also attacking on f5. Such a multi-purpose move. King g4, b5, rook d1, b4, rook d7, b3. You can simply run with the pawn. There is never any checkmate, so rook d8 takes, king h7, rook b8, but it doesn't help after b2. The position is completely hopeless, and after knight d5, the American resigned. And rightfully so, because the position is completely hopeless. I'm going to play c5, c4, c3, and there is nothing white can do about it, and the position is winning. Great start by the world champion. Excellent start. It now stands, he has won the first game, and a rumor has it that he did lose the second game. So the score is now 1-1. Very exciting to see what's gonna happen next. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you guys later.